you have to understand your market. I've gone in my own business and even client businesses where I actually call, customers and talk to them rather than doing a survey. You actually call and talk to them on the phone.
Hey, podcast listener, you're about to discover insider tips, tricks, and secrets to making more sales and converting more prospects into customers with email marketing. For more information about the Email Marketing Podcast or the Autoresponder Guy, go to dropdeadcopy.com/podcast. Good song, this one. I'm in a cafe. I'm in Thailand. It's my last week in Thailand, actually. And that's Taylor by Jack Johnson playing over at the cafe. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Now, let's get started with this podcast. It's John McIntyre here, the Autoresponder Guy. It's time for episode 105 of the McMethod Email Marketing Podcast, where you'll discover secrets to getting rich, to getting wealthy, and to getting wise. And really, it's the secret here is, and there is no secrets. This is about creating automated marketing systems with email to get yourself a steady stream of customers, of clients, so you don't have to focus so much on that client generation. You can focus on other things like bringing in new traffic, doing those deals, satisfying your customers. That's what email marketing, that's what automated marketing is all about. Today, I'll be talking to Jeremy Reeves about sales funnels. Funnily enough. Now, Jeremy, very similar guy to me in terms of what we do. He does it under the banner of sales funnels. I do it under the banner of email autoresponders. Very similar stuff at the end of the day. He's just positioned himself differently and kind of goes after, I'd say, a slightly different client. But today we're going to talk about sales funnels, simple sales funnels, which would be a 10 email autoresponder. So we can process advanced, custom, segmented stuff, which you'll find out about in this episode. And also what people don't talk about when it comes to sales funnels. So I wouldn't call it guru hating, but there's a couple of things in this episode which aren't going to be conventional, which are going to challenge some of your ideas about what it means to have a sales funnel, what works, what doesn't, all that stuff. So we're going to have some fun. To get the show notes for this episode, go to themcmethod.com/105. 3 things. Number 1, got the McMaster's Insight of the Week, and that is follow up until they die. And what I mean by that is that if you're emailing a client and they just stop replying, and you email them twice and then they don't reply, and then you forget about them, you are leaving so much money on the table. And this applies to your clients, and this also applies to people in the autoresponder. Some people just take a long time to get back to you. People forget. People's lives are busy. I mentioned on a recent podcast that to get John Carlton on the show, it took probably 15 follow-ups. So I emailed. I think he emailed him first. Didn't hear. He said yes, but then didn't reply for a while. So I emailed him again. Did it again. Did it all without getting replies. And then eventually he told me his assistant's email, so I jumped onto emailed her. She replied. Then disappeared again. So I replied again and again and again, like 5 or 10 or 20 times without getting a reply. Because to me, I think it's just follow up. Sooner or later, someone's going to do it. That's the way I see it. It doesn't cost me anything to follow up except 10 seconds of my time to find that, to go through a label in Gmail and just follow up again. So that's today's insight. Follow up until they die. This is why autoresponders are so important, is because you can keep following up. Keep following up, and it will blow your mind how well this actually works. How much money, you're going to wonder, and probably maybe regret, how much money you've left on the table in the past by not following up. Most people follow up once or twice. So if you're the one who follows up 5 times or 10 times, you're going to be way ahead of the game. Now, this comes straight out of McMaster's. Been talking about this in the forum, in the training. McMaster's is a private training community for people who want to convert more leads with email marketing. It's got blueprints and systems and templates and checklists, all under the banner of how to convert more leads with email and do it all automatically. I think that's the best bit, the automated side of it. So you can be on the beach playing with your kids. Anything you want to be doing, you can do instead of working, which is pretty cool. Now, reviews. I love reviews. You make my day. You put a big smile on my face and make this all worth doing. So if you want to leave a review, and I'd love you to, go to iTunes, search for the McMethod Email Marketing Podcast, leave me a review, tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like, and I'll read it out on the show with your name, with whatever's in the review. Even if you put your website address, I will read it out on the show. Okay. Last but not least, if you'd like to work with someone personally, to create one of these campaigns for you, because maybe you don't have the time to create the campaign yourself, you don't want to learn how to do it, you're just lazy, who knows? I can do it for you. Shoot me an email, john@themcmethod.com, and we'll have a chat on Skype in the next week or two to discuss your project and see if it's a good fit. Anyway, that's it for now. Let's get into this interview with Mr. Jeremy Reeves. It's John McIntyre here, the Autoresponder Guy. I'm here with Jeremy Reeves. Now, Jeremy is a bit like me. He's got sort of a different take on marketing or a different positioning thing. He is he's a direct response copywriter, but what he really does is he specializes in building strategic automated sales funnels. And based on a quick chat that we just had before this recording, I think I'm about to learn a bunch about sales funnels because I might know a lot about email copywriting, and I've set up a number of different sales funnels for myself and for my clients. I haven't gone too deep into the sales funnel world, and even then, I just actually asked Jeremy. Isn't a sales funnel just a landing page, couple emails, and a sales page? And he's like, well, no, it's not. So today we're going to talk about what most people don't talk about or don't even think about when it comes to sales funnels, because I think that's going to lead us down some interesting talking points, and we can discover a few new things. Even me, I hope to learn a few things too about the sales funnel. So we'll get into that in just a minute. Jeremy, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How about you?
Good. Really good, man. Yeah, I'm pumped. Pumped to be here. Though I haven't had a coffee because we're just chatting, right? That coffee is one of the best things to have before a podcast. But I'm just drinking water here, unfortunately. It's too late for a coffee.
Yeah, I'm onto my water now. I just finished my coffee a couple minutes ago.
You should.
It's 7 in the morning here, so I only had my first cup so far.
Nice. Are you a big coffee drinker?
I usually have either a cup or two, but I like to have. I focus on like quality over quantity, so I get really expensive, crazy kind of coffee. Really strong coffee I like too, and I do like the whole, grind the beans and I store them in like an airtight container and do the French press and all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
I want to try to move on to that. There's that one method where you get like the little teapot that like pours it out really slow, and it takes like 7 minutes or something to steep it. I want to try that. I had one cup like that in my life, and it was absolutely fantastic. So I want to look into getting one of those.
Nice. Okay. What about bulletproof coffee? Have you tried that?
I have. It doesn't do all that much for me. I didn't notice too much of a difference. I've tried a bunch of Dave's products. The one I like, I forget, Choline Force, I think it is. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm too young or something. I'm like 28, so my brain's not, it's still kicking pretty good, I think. Maybe. So maybe, I don't know, maybe that's why it doesn't do it. I don't know. And plus I eat healthy. I do it mostly fat during the day anyway, and then pig out with carbs at night. So I don't know, maybe that's why. But yeah, it didn't do it too much. It tastes good though.
It does taste good. I always found it made me too full. I couldn't eat anything for another like 4 hours just because it's all butter and coconut oil,
Yeah. I know.
But all right, so sales funnels then. So before we get into the meat and potatoes, as a friend of mine likes to say on his podcast, can you give the listener a background on who you are, why you do, and what makes you different?
Yeah. So I basically, like you said, I'm a direct response copywriter. That's how I kind of got started with everything, and then I realized that like my real talent is kind of in like the marketing strategy type of scenario, and then with that was the sales funnels. So. My first, the first couple of years of copywriting, my clients would say like, hey, you're really unique in that, like, you actually understand the strategy behind the copy, and that just kind of transformed into doing sales funnels, because I was always a big fan of making things automated and making sure that people are kind of going down the right path and kind of, taking them where they're at in the buying cycle and moving them further down the buying cycle and all that kind of stuff. So I basically work with clients to do that, to build automated sales funnels, and it helps them, get a high enough ROI on paid traffic that they can buy it. It makes everything more reliable and like stable, more stable cash flow, which is always cool. It makes a lot more money because you're doing all the right things and have the right offers in the right places, and are getting in touch with people in the right ways and all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty much what I do for clients.
Okay. So before we get into like the how it happens or what to do, can you? I'm sure that like some people, someone's probably listening to this thinking, man, I love it. I love the idea of like more profit. I want more time. I want to automate the whole thing. Basically, have this entire automatic sales machine set up. But it just sounds like a magic bullet. It sounds like too good to be true.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. Like, talk to me. Like, is it possible? And if it is possible for anyone to do, or is it just something that's, do you need to be an elite copywriter to get something like this set up?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it really does. I always sometimes I have to tone it down a little bit, because it really does sometimes sound a little bit too, kind of like magical pill type of thing. But it's really, first of all, it's, it takes a long time to do. So it's not like you get it set up in like 3 days and you're done. But yeah, I mean, you really can that. Even just for example, in my business, I don't really like I kind of just do things like this and send people to jeremyreeves.com, and then once you get there, it takes you down. Like I have a couple different funnels. And even for my own stuff, I actually have to update some of my funnels. I always get so busy working on client stuff that I forget to do my own. But it kind of like, all the processes, like people, there's free reports on there, and they go there and they get emails. And then in the emails, it tells them about, the different products and services that I have. So, they might go, when I'm talking about the services that I have, they might go to the services page and then click on one of the two, main services that I have. And they get to that page, and that puts them in a separate funnel. And that funnel essentially pre-sells people so that by the time I get on the phone with people, they already know, who I am, what I do, what makes me unique, what makes me charge, higher end fees. So by the time that I get people on the phone, it's not really a matter of like, hey, should I work with you? It's, hey, how can I work with you? So, and it really is, in most cases, some people, they don't fall into the funnel. I would say maybe like 1 out of 5 or 6 people don't fall into that funnel. Like maybe they have a referral from somebody, they just email me, or they just hear me on a podcast or something and they email me rather than like actually going through the funnel. So it's not, it's not quote unquote perfect, but in most cases you're going to get the people that just, it takes them from where they are, which in most cases is like they're kind of just learning about you, to where you want them to be. If you can imagine like a line, they're on like the, just think like the left side of the line where they are now, and then you want them on the right side when they buy your product. So the sales funnel, and the sales funnel consists of landing pages and sales letters and emails, and it could even consist of like, content, blog posts, and, things on Facebook, anything to like build your authority, your credibility, that kind of thing. Yeah. And it just, each little touch kind of moves them down that path, builds more authority, builds more trust. Explains that your solution can help their problem, that kind of thing.
Right. It's interesting because like I'm big on like coming back to fundamentals, and I reckon like it's the technical side of it is like how many emails do you send, how often do you send them, what do you say in them, how do you set up tagging. Like that's all. I mean, that can often get very complex and people get overwhelmed. But I like if you bring it back to like the fundamental idea, it's really just about cultivating the relationship and finding ways. If you're going to get on the phone with someone, what sort of touch points can you have between now and then that's going to increase the likelihood when you get on the phone that they're going to, ready to get going. So it's sort of like before anyone's going to do business with any of us, they've got a set of objections, which might be 3 objections, it might be 10. And then the goal of that sales funnel is to remove as many of those objections as possible before they get to that purchase point.
Exactly. Yeah. Well said.
Yeah. So what's talk to me about this idea of like, I mentioned that, is a sales funnel just to like, is it just a sign up page and then some emails and like one string of just say 5 or 10 emails and then a sales page? Or is there something, is it more advanced than that? And if it is more advanced than that, what does it look like? What does a good sales funnel look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. So like a lot of people think like when I say sales funnel, you probably get an image of your head of like a mind map, and you can see like the people go to a landing page, giving away something free, lead magnet or free report or, free video, free webinar, whatever it is. And you give them something for free. You send a couple of prospect emails to sell them on the main product, and then you go and they go into an upsell sequence. They have 1 or 2 upsells and blah blah blah, and maybe you have a back end or whatever, which most people's back ends are awful, but and that's where all the money is. But so that's, technically that's a sales funnel, but in my opinion, like you can't just put, like the difference is you can't put any emails in those sequences. You can't just have a couple emails and then they're on your list for 2 weeks and then they never hear from you again. You kind of have to meet them from where they are, and as they move, like I was talking about that, like the customer journey, the customer path, whatever you want to call it, as they move down that line, from first hearing about you all the way on the left side to buying your product or your service or whatever it is that you sell on the right side, there's a lot of little like inflection points along the way. So, for example, somebody comes to your site and you get them on your list. Let's say you're selling weight loss products, right? And your first thing that they sign up for is like how to how to lose 10 pounds in the next 7 days, right? So then they're on your list, and you see that they're clicking, and you could do behavioral emails and stuff like this. So let's say that you have a page talking about how to use CrossFit to lose weight, right? So there's like a million different ways to work out. So you see that, hey, they went to your CrossFit sales letter 3 times. So you can pause the sequence they're on that's more general, just talking about like weight loss in general. And maybe you're talking about, bodybuilding, and you're talking about eating certain nutrition, to get to your goals. So then, you can set up systems with Ontraport and Infusionsoft and all those kind of things, HubSpot, so that when they go to certain pages, you can pause them on like the general sequence and put them onto segmented, email sequences. So then, so let's just say that they visit your CrossFit page 3 times. You can then, again, pause the general sequence and start the sequence talking about CrossFit, because that's where they are at that exact moment. That's kind of like where their mind is. They're thinking about CrossFit. They're interested in CrossFit. And then, they go through a sequence. Just say it's, 5 emails, just for example. At the end, then they can go back on their general segment, or they can get split up based on if they click something else on your website. So like it's more than just, a lot of people think like, oh, well, I can just have a lead magnet. I can have some emails. I can have a product or two, and that's a sales funnel. So that means I'm going to do well. But you really, like, it has to be set up properly, is basically what I'm saying, is like you have to have the right lead magnet, which is congruent with your first sales letter. Kind of like the lead magnet kind of pre-sells the main product that you have. And then the main product gives them enough information to pre-sell your back end. And, the back end gives, faster and better results, and easier is another big one for back end stuff. And then you have, so you have to do everything right. You have to have the positioning right. You have to have the price point right, the whole offer right, bonuses, all that kind of stuff. Typical copywriting stuff, marketing strategy, to get all of that in place. And then, if you combine that with like the segments that I'm talking about, and splitting up your audience when you're doing emailing, so you're talking to specific people and specific segments of the audience, like slivers, if you will, rather than the whole audience, because everybody's there for different reasons. They all have, different businesses. I know, like for me, I have like 5 main segments that I talk to in my business based on what type of business people have. Because, like for example, you have 5 main segments. You can give them case studies and examples and analogies and all that kind of stuff specific to their certain type of business or whatever it is in your business, that specific if they're interested in CrossFit, you're going to give them CrossFit testimonials and case studies and stuff like that, rather than, a big bodybuilder, which wouldn't appeal to somebody in CrossFit usually. Yeah. So there's a lot more that goes into it than just putting those pieces in place. You have to do it the right way. And the same goes for the back end with all like the segmenting and that stuff. I only did it for the like prospect stuff, but the same really goes for the back end too,
Right.
But
okay.
Does that answer the question?
That's good, man. That's good. So, like, because I'm actually, it's funny. When I first started this, I had probably a similar journey to you in the sense that I got started as a copywriter, and then over time, sort of realized I wanted to, I didn't want to be just a copywriter. I knew that there was something. Well, I wanted to be something bigger. Well, I kind of wanted to be an entrepreneur, so I kind of wanted to think more about the strategy side of things instead of just writing copy for clients. But so I went through a stage when, and anyone who's listening to this is gonna know this if they're on my list. I went through, for a long time I just did daily emails, straight daily. There was no funnel, there was no segmenting or anything. It was just you sign up and you're gonna get daily emails, and that worked well. But after talking with so many people on this podcast and thinking about it, talking with friends, it's made me realize that it's taken a while for me to realize it. But that I need to do something. I need a sales funnel, man, and I've got like different ones. Obviously, they're probably nowhere near as advanced as what you got set up right now. But how I'm thinking is it's sort of exactly along the lines of what you're talking about. And so what that looks like is, let's say someone signs up, and the first thing I ask them, there's a question on the second page, is do you want to write emails yourself, or do you want to hire someone to write them for you? So straight away they're going to segment themselves as, all right, well, I'm a copywriter, freelance, or something like that, or I've got a business and I'm going to hire someone. And then so the idea is to do exactly what you're talking about and say, the freelance or the DIYers will get case studies they'll get like a quick tip and a case study and products that relate to just doing it themselves. And then the DFYers will get different offers. And then what I'm also going to do is kind of set up, let's say, I don't know, maybe you can give feedback on this idea. How's this? So someone signs up and they go that, and then they're going to get, if they're a DIY, they're going to get 30 days of emails, and then after that they end up on the house list, which is in the done for you as well will end up on the house list too. So they'll end up on the same list, and then there'll be different offers. I might mention one segment, one idea, which might be like software for email marketing, which one software type is Drip, which is what I've been using. So then the idea is if they open that email, or if they click the link in the email to read the article, then they get like a 5 email sequence based on that. They get moved off the main one, they get that sequence, and they get moved back to the house list again. And so they're always everyone's taking these journeys like that. That's the idea of what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you can that's kind of like the, one of the things, that basically you should do is essentially get them in the lead magnet, split them, and you can split them with a lead magnet. So for example, there's a couple of different ways to like segment people. You could do it with the lead magnet itself just by naming it something different and having a different lead magnet. Yeah. You know what I mean? So for example, if you're driving Facebook traffic, you can have 3 different lead magnets, and one is about CrossFit, one's about bodybuilding, and one's about nutrition. So then and then those are just 3 random examples.
All on the same page?
What's that?
Would you have these all on? Because I've always been curious about if someone does that and they want to, have 3 lead magnets, does that mean they need to have 3 Facebook campaigns running, or are they all on the 3 lead magnets on the same page?
Yeah, I would do 3 different lead magnets. Although I've never tested having sending them to a page and saying, hey, we have a free gift for you. Actually, we have 3. Choose the one that you like the best. I've thought of that idea, but I've never actually tested it. It's something that would be interesting to test. Another way you can do it is like a quiz. So quizzes work well, especially in like higher volume niches. Just say for weight loss, for example. You can do a quiz, and based off the answers they give on that quiz, you can split them up into the section. Like it could be, what area of fitness are you most interested in, or whatever. And then based off the answer they give you, then you can put them into a separate funnel like that. Yeah. Another way you can do it is having, just say you have 1 lead magnet right now and you just want to get started like immediately doing something. You can do in the first email, you can say, something like, hey, and this is like kind of after, in the beginning of the sequences, it's always good to have them reply or make sure they at least click something, or, just to get them like waitlisted, engaged, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Another thing that you can do in like the very beginning of the sequence is send them, essentially it's kind of like a welcome email where you say, like, you explain who you are and how you're going to be able to help them. And then you kind of just transition into, hey, I'm going to be able to help you, but I want to make sure that I'm sending you the most relevant information that I can. So, there are 3 different types of people that I can help. Which one are you? And then you put like a link to, again, it could be, I'm interested in CrossFit, I'm interested in bodybuilding, I'm interested in nutrition, or whatever it is. Whatever segments. You could have 2 segments, you could have 10, whatever you want to do, or whatever makes sense for your business. And then based on what link they click, then they go into that specific list. So they go through that sequence and just say it's 10 emails or whatever. Then again, they come on to like more of like I call it a general nurture campaign, and that's what you were talking about, like a general list. And then they go through that one and say that's, I don't know, another 30 or 60 days or whatever, whatever the time frame is going to depend on your business, how many emails you want to write, or if you're hiring somebody else, how many emails you can afford for them to write you, and what makes sense and all that. So then after that, they come to the end of the general nurture sequence, they still didn't buy. So then maybe you put them on something like a re-engagement sequence to get them kind of re-engaged in your content. Because at that point, you want to see like, hey, you've been on the list for, just say 60 days at this point, just for example. And it's like, hey, I want to make sure that you're still actually opening the emails. I want to make sure that you're actually engaged. So if like you can kind of set rules. And again, this is more in stuff like Infusionsoft and Entreport and all that kind of stuff. You can set rules that say, if the client hasn't clicked an email in the last, just say 30 days, put them into a re-engagement sequence. And that essentially is to try to get them to become re-engaged with your content. Maybe it's, you can say, you can kind of split them off again at this point and say, hey, I want to make sure I'm sending you the most relevant content. Like, what's wrong? You haven't been opening emails and blah, blah, blah. So you can do a bunch of different things to get them re-engaged in the content. You could send them to a webinar, which is what I do a lot. And then they go down a whole webinar funnel sequence and all that kind of splits up again. And then if they go through that re-engagement sequence and they still don't, like there's still no opens, no clicks, all that stuff, you can kind of segment them off the list. And that's just kind of basic list cleaning, essentially. And then if they do,
that's after like 3 months, say. that's not, you're not really keeping them around for very long.
Yeah, yeah, and then well, basically, what I do after that is do more of a. I usually do in most cases. It kind of depends on the business. In most cases, what I usually recommend clients at this point is like they've been around for a couple months, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and then they go on to more of like a broadcast list. So like maybe you broadcast, you do a newsletter or something like that. Like they're it's hard to stay relevant after that point. And it also depends on the size of your business. If you have a $10 million business and it's worth it to write tons and tons of emails, then definitely do it. It's good to track your emails to see kind of where people are dropping off to at what point you should stop spending a lot of time there.
Yeah.
And then just go to more of like a broadcast list, once a week, twice a week, with the newsletter, and like kind of just like you're staying in touch, but you're not spending quite as much time with them because it's, you have to find out where it's not worth your time anymore, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Does all that make sense?
Yeah,
I know
man.
that was a lot all in one shot.
The thing is, like, I reckon, even me thinking about this, like when I've been thinking about trying to do my own one, the reason I put it off and being kind of lazy with it is because it's like, man, this is going to take so much time. Because instead of it just being 5 emails or 10 emails, or just, a really sort of unsophisticated email a day, this is like, all right, so first I've got to plan it out and just understanding how all the pieces come together is sort of like, it's hard on the brain to wrap your head around. Then there's actually sitting down. It's either hiring someone to write them, which can get expensive if you've got hundreds of emails,
Sure.
or it's very time consuming. And that's sitting down and write all these emails. Is that so? What would you say to someone like that who's like, man, I just can't be bothered. There's too much time.
Yeah, that's a good question. I've never thought too much about that. Because I usually, anybody that comes to me. Well, actually, I kind of do have an answer. So you have to look at it in terms of your ROI. So if you have a $50,000 business, it's probably not worth it yet to get all this in place because it's going to take a while to really ramp it up. Like you should be focused on, nailing down exactly who your target market is, exactly what your offer has to be to make it perfect. Just getting like that front end set up, and then once you get the front end set up, then you add some back end products, and and then kind of as you grow, once it becomes once it becomes basically a good idea to do this, then you do it, so like someone at $1 million or even 500,000 or, a couple 100,000 even, then it makes it worth it to put in the effort, and then it becomes worthwhile to put in the time or to hire somebody or whatever, so let's just say, for example, you're at, let's just say, I don't know, even 200,000, right? So it's still like pretty low, but it's not, you're doing good, but you still have a lot of room to grow, right? If you hire somebody for, I don't know, whatever, 15 or just say $20,000 or whatever to write your sales letter, or you're not your sales letter, your sales funnel, that's essentially 10% of what you're going to make. Or like if you increase by 10%, you essentially cover that cost.
Yeah.
And doing something like this, you're going to go way more than 10%. Especially if you have somebody good that understands like how it all pieces together and how to not just write emails, but actually write the right emails and set up the right offers and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of a no-brainer to do it, even at that level. If you go up to 2 million, all you need is a 1% increase, which is kind of like, you could probably put 5 emails in and get that. So it is a little bit of a hard question, and you have to figure out. One of the things I do every year, and this is kind of on the top of my mind because it's still early 2015, and I just did my planning like a month ago. I always I write down all of the big opportunities that I have for that year, right? And usually I do like a 1 to 2 year timeline, so there's some things on my plate this year that I'm starting to set up and just work, on like Saturday mornings or whatever on that I know aren't going to come into place until later this year or like next year even. I have a little bit of a longer term time frame because I know I'm going to, be around as long as I don't get hit by a bus or something. But yeah, I mean, you kind of just have to look at it for your business and figure out, if it's going to be worth your time. If you're going to do it, yourself. Like I just did a funnel day. I have a service. I won't go into that, but I have a service. So basically, I'm going to be like in person for the day, and we structure out the funnel and all that. And he wanted for me to show him how to set up his funnel, but he wants to actually learn how to do the copywriting and like kind of understand how and why all this fits together. So he's like, he's hiring me basically for like coaching rather than actually implementing it. And for him that's worth it because the experience he's going to learn, he can then take that, for basically his whole life. He's a young guy, he's a really, really smart guy, and he's getting into business and he's successful in other areas and all that kind of stuff, and now moving into business and all that. So for him, it's worth it. For other people, I have a lot of clients who are just like, hey, you know what, just do it. Like just tell me what you're going to do and just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
And so it kind of depends on your business and what your skill set is and what kind of what kind of money you have to put towards it, what kind of time you have to put towards it. So I know that was kind of like a very broad answer. It's a loaded question.
It's one of those things, man, where like with any of this kind of stuff, the answer is it depends. I mean, it's
yeah, exactly.
There's no other way to put it. It's just that there's so much to do with what situation someone's in, how much time do they have to devote, what's their budget,
exactly.
Do they have access to cheap copywriters, for example. Like there's so many different ways to put this question, put the answer to this question together. And I like the point there about how like you can go into a funnel and it really is about that ROI, but more important than just doing the funnel is really nailing down who you're talking to and what they want and what sort of stuff you need to offer them to really make that money. Because once you've got that, the funnel more or less writes itself.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because, I mean, if you do, like one of the things that I always do for every project that I take on is number one thing is a survey, so because I want to understand, like, who is this person that I'm talking to? What's bothering them? What's keeping them up at night? And this is, as this is all copywriting research stuff. It just depends on it, if the person actually does it or not. But, and everybody should be doing this. Whether you're hiring somebody, you're doing it yourself, you have to understand your market. I've gone in my own business and even client businesses where I actually call customers and talk to them rather than doing a survey. You actually call and talk to them on the phone, and you can just do 20-minute interviews, talk to 6 people or 10 people or whatever, and it only takes a few hours. But what you're going to gain from that in terms of like market knowledge and understanding who you're talking to and why they're, first of all, what they think is unique about you, because it's funny, sometimes you think you're unique in way X. And then you talk to people and they're like, oh, I actually, noticed that you were unique in Y. And that's actually how I became a sales funnel, specialist, is because of that, which is funny because, my clients kind of noticed that's what I did. And I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. So like and that happens all the time. And so, yeah, I mean, it's really, really, that's kind of like the first step is really making sure that you understand exactly who you're talking to, because, you could be selling the best weight loss kit in the world, but if you're trying to sell it to somebody who doesn't want to lose weight or is already super skinny, like you're not going to sell it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you have to make sure that, number one, you're targeting the right audience, whatever kind of whatever traffic source that you're doing, whether it's Facebook ads or Google or even stuff like this podcasts, like being on the right podcasts and or webinars, or if you're writing guest posts or whatever the traffic source you're doing is. Make sure. I've actually tested different traffic sources and I've seen literally 10x increases in conversions just by changing a traffic source. It's really that powerful when you understand exactly who you're talking to. So yeah, that's step one.
Yeah, that's one of the funny things about copywriting, though, is this idea that, like, yeah, you have great copy, but if you have great copy with the wrong traffic, it's not going to work. Or you'd have bad copy, but with perfectly relevant traffic, and it's probably going to work. And it's probably going to work better than the really good copy with bad traffic. And so it's kind of like it drills that truth in that, sometimes you really need to have amazing copy. But often, like, what's more important than that amazing copy is having the most amazing targeting, the most amazing relevance in terms of you're getting in touch, connecting with the absolute right people for the product that you're trying to sell.
Yeah. I mean, if you, if you show the right audience that you have the right product and with compelling copy, you're unstoppable. And most people don't have. They have like maybe one of those three. But yeah, I mean, that's, it's one of those things like you said, you can have the best copy in the world, but if you're selling it to the wrong person, you'll sell nothing. Whereas if you have the best traffic, like the most targeted traffic to whatever you're selling, you could pretty much say, hey, I'm selling this. Here's what you get, buy now. And you'll probably get better conversions. Yeah. The power comes in when you have both of them and the right offer, and that's really when you see people that just explode and just, they have conversion rates that are triple their competitors, that's why, because they have all three of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that,
Cool, man.
yeah.
I think one of the last things worth finishing up on is I think this idea of like, well, it's going to take a lot of time. Because the way I think about it is sort of like how you got to approach business in general. I think is that it's a long game, but also with this is like it's not something you're going to do in a weekend or even a week.
Sure.
This is something you map out the funnel, get a good idea of what it's going to look like, and then just start building it out. Get a couple emails done this week, couple the next week, couple.
Exactly.
After 3 months or 6 months, you've got that automatic machine, and then it's even more fun to go back and do traffic because if you put more traffic inside that funnel, it's exponential. The returns are exponential after that, so it gets very, very fun.
Yeah, and one of the things that, because, I talk to all kinds of people. Again, like some people just want to hand it off to others. Some people want like more of like a kind of coaching aspect. Some people just want to figure it out all on their own. And one of the things that I tell people is, you see like, you look at my stuff, you see some of my mind and they're really complex. But one of the things that people don't realize is, I do this all day, every single day of my life. Like right now, I'm working on 4 big sales funnels for clients all at the same time. So I mean, there's literally like, hundreds and hundreds of emails and pages and sales letters and, webinars. And I mean, there's, and then there's like sub funnels all over the place. And it's just, it's insane. But this is like part of my kind of unique ability. Like I can process all this. I can see funnels like in my head, literally. It's like I'm a very visual guy. So like I can kind of see them like floating around. It's weird. But most people can't do that because that's not where their expertise is. So, figure out where your expertise is. And like if you're in the place where you want a funnel, but that's not your expertise in like actually building them. And you also don't have the money. Like if you're starting earlier, a little bit more beginning, you don't have the money to outsource it, any of that stuff. Don't try to like shoot for the moon in the first shot. Just get like a basic funnel in place first, get that live and start, then you'll increase your, how much money you're making. And then little by little, then add the extra pieces. It's good to just get something there first. Like kind of, start off with a basic, like a sales funnel we talked about, like, some kind of free thing, whatever you give away. And then a couple emails and then maybe switch them to a broadcast or whatever. And then, have an upsell or two and, like a buyer's sequence. Always have a buyer's sequence, by the way. That's one thing. I am absolutely shocked by how many people don't have anything like they have all these emails in the beginning to get people and then people buy. So they're the most valuable, people that you can ever have. And then it's just like, okay, now you just fall into the abyss and you're never hear from me again. Make sure if there's one thing that you take away from this, have some kind of system for buyers. That's like if there's like anything that you want to do, just make sure that you talk to your buyers because they're the ones like you're putting all your time into people who aren't giving you money. And then, rather than like people who already did give you money and they're proven to be profitable for your business, a lot of people just completely neglect them. So, make sure that you have something for your buyers to start with and then start doing all the, the other stuff.
Nice. Cool, man. We're right on time. I think that's a good note to finish on, this idea of going out, setting up a basic funnel. Instead of thinking you need a big mind map, start with the small thing. And kind of, I think I like the school idea of thinking that it doesn't have to all happen. You don't have to have the whole thing mapped out. Start with phase one. So, go and do phase 1.
Yep, exactly.
Sweet, man. Well, so thank you so much for doing this, man. The question is, if someone wants to learn more about you, where's the best place, or even hire you to do a sales funnel day or build the funnel, where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, so if you go to jeremyreeves.com, that's pretty much going to show you all the stuff that I do. So I have a product for people who kind of just want to figure things out on their own. I have a coaching program, which actually isn't even on my site now. So just email me about that. That's something I'm kind of relaunching later in the year. And then like for anybody that wants to actually like work with me on doing a sales funnel, just click on services. And then there's 2 things. Like one, if it's going to be a real small sales funnel, we can typically figure out like over the phone. Most of my clients start with a funnel day, which is like we actually spend the day together. Sometimes like I've done some for people in like, Australia and the UK and stuff like that. So then we do it over like Skype video and we kind of, we map out the whole sales funnel. We figure out exactly like we do basically everything we just talked about, figure out exactly what the offer is going to be, who the traffic, like the targeted traffic is going to be, how we're going to, where we're going to put emails, what the emails are going to say, all the everything that kind of makes up all these sales funnels. And then, we go and do the implementing, So basically, if you're interested in working with me at all, just go to jeremyreeves.com and then, hopefully my website will intrigue you enough to to get in touch and do its job.
Nice. Sounds good. Well, I'll have links to that in the show notes at themcmethod.com. Jeremy, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Sure. Thanks for having me. It was, very valuable to everybody.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening. If you want to discover more insider tips, tricks, and secrets about driving sales with email marketing, sign up for daily email tips from the autoresponder guy. Go to dropdeadcopy.com/podcast. Sign up, confirm your email address, and I'll send you daily emails on how to improve your email marketing and make more sales via email. You'll find out why open rates don't matter and the 7-letter word that underlies all effective marketing and much more.